I'm here with David Duncan and we're standing in the Macquarie Marshes, and it's been fascinating to have a look around. Got our feet nice and wet, and we went for a bit of a walk through the marshes there. So Dave, what can you tell me about where we are, and what can you tell me about the marshes from your perspective?
Okay, we're right here where we are. We're in the northern, what we call the northern marshes. We're on the western edge of the northern marshes. We're standing right on the edge of the area that has been recently inundated by the environmental flow. In the marsh area, I guess, with this recent flow, the core area, including the reed beds and what we call the core area of the marsh, has been wet over a period of about 3 months.
Yeah, right. And look, I'm not an expert, but when we went for a walk into the marshes there, it certainly looked like there was a variety of plants, a variety of birds that we saw, some kangaroos hopping in the distance. So it looked like nature was in full force. So it looks pretty healthy to me.
Yeah, well, I guess we saw a number of birds. You heard a lot more that you couldn't see. There's a whole proliferation of growth that's come from the different sorts of vegetation that's now taken off with the growth. We saw little fish in the water.
Yeah.
There's plenty of evidence of things that are going on, and that's, I guess, the whole system here. This system really fires up once it gets wet.
Yeah, and the reeds look probably 8 or 10 feet tall.
Yeah, so the reeds are, they're a summer grower. They've taken off. They're already halfway through that height. They're up 4 or 5 foot high already, and by the time they're mature, they'll reach up to 3 metres high.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So and the reeds have certainly taken off over in the area where the reed beds are starting to spread. Here on this particular block, where we've removed we reduced the grazing pressure from introduced species, and now it's it's certainly been hammered. Total grazing pressure from the kangaroos has hammered it. But you see that in the exclusion plots, the benefits of actually taking that all the wildlife away as well. In the exclusion plots, you'd have seen those areas where there was an enormous amount of ground cover from last year, and the regrowth fired up again there now.
Yeah. Now look, it's been an interesting day, and obviously this is outside the electorate, the Dubbo electorate, but I think because the Macquarie River is such an important part of the Dubbo electorate, and the river system and the people who've got using the river system is such an important part of the Dubbo electorate, I think it was important to get out here and have a look at the end of that Macquarie River and to see what it ends up with. So the river doesn't know that it crosses an electoral boundary.
No.
The river just goes where the river goes. So
absolutely, and this is a big part, as you say, a big part of the system, and the whole health of the river is about the whole river. It's from over on right through, and 90% of the water, I guess only a very small portion of the water gets out the bottom end. It's all used there. The middle part, where all the in particular where the Dubbo electorate is a real high intensity usage part of the river for a whole range of purposes, and this is where the environmental water ends up, in terms of the water that gets to the end of past Warren and into the marshes.
Yeah, and from my perspective, the real balancing act there is you've got this whole river system used for recreation, you've got it used by irrigators for both food and fibre. You've also got the Macquarie Marshes from an environmental perspective, so getting the right balance with all that is really important. I'm not sure if the balance is exactly right at the moment, and that's something I think we can certainly work on from the state government perspective.
Absolutely, and it's I guess the argument comes around the river regulation, and the dam is there and the dam's to stay. It provides a whole range of purposes, from regulating water, but the flood mitigation, and then allowing the constant release of water, which benefits a whole range of things. There's an industry that's developed on it, towns reliant on it, but at the end of the day, there's only about, in the last 10 years or so, it's only been about 13% of the total river flow has been extracted for use. So 87% of the water is still in the river system. The dam does fluctuate the timing somewhat of that, which people might have an opinion on, but the dam is there to initially stop, reduce the impact of floods on those towns, and to store water then that's used later on. So it helps. The benefit for the environment out of that is what we see today, in that we had a flood in 16 that filled the dam. That 2016 water is running past here today instead of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it ran past after the flood. It ran past a few months later to maintain an inundation level in the marshes and to help a second and third fledging of chicks, whereas if that water had a run through in one hit, it would have been gone and those chicks wouldn't have survived. And a classic example is the Bland system in that same year had the biggest flood for a long time. And talking to the manager of the Lake Cowell Foundation, you know, he said a number of their chicks had actually, they'd lost them, they died, they had a high mortality rate because the levels dropped from where they'd nested. Here in the Macquarie, environmental water was used to flow after the flood and top things up and, you know, maintain the conditions such that they could get the, you know, the first lot of fledglings finished, but also then subsequent ones as well that did come in afterwards. So that's a real benefit to the marshes in stretching that out. And then as you see what we see today and last year with the big environmental flows, is a big benefit. So the dam's not all bad.
No, that's right. And I think it's an important part again of that. From my perspective, the Dubbo Electorate, that river system and what it produces for the region is incredibly important. So getting the balance right amongst a number of competing interests, I think, is really important. And,
absolutely.
And good open discussion is required, and people to have good ideas coming forward and not be scared to bring those good ideas forward, but make sure we get that good discussion so we get the best outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowledge, getting the knowledge out there so that people understand, so that you don't have half-cocked arguments between people that, you know, stand strong on what they believe, but they believe in the wrong thing because they haven't seen it. And that's part of what this is about down here, is it's access into the marshes. Otherwise you can't get in through the conservation areas and you can't get in through private land. But part of this block is to say, well, if you want to come and have a look, come and have a look. Yeah. You make the decision, have a look and make the decision.
Yeah, that's good. And I appreciate the time that you've given me today.
No worries, thank you for coming.
To actually get in and have a look there, it was great.
No worries.
I'll throw out that pair of shoes I used.
No, just put them under the hose.
Thanks, mate.
Good, bye.